Welcome, everybody. My name is Stephanie Pierre. I'm doing these Soul Glam readings where I'm integrating Chinese medicine and astrology and the tarot, herbs, magic, and ritual. So, um, last time we pulled a card from the tarot deck and spoke a little bit about that and its correspondences. And this time, I'm going to speak actually just about Jupiter and Scorpio and what that means for all of us, and also what that means, in our bodies from a Chinese medicine perspective, and in our life, and some tools that we can use to navigate the new terrain that is opening up before us. So, first, I want to talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is, these planets, by the way, yes, they're planets, we can see them in the night sky, which is incredible, and they all have their own path that they circulate around the sun, or the planets are also called the Wanderers, the 7 wandering planets, and this was back before we were able to we had telescopes, so these were what we could see with the naked eye. But so Jupiter is the planet that is, first of all, it's the biggest planet. It's the giant, it's the gas giant. And even just like, what the planets look like, and what they're composed of speaks a lot to what their influence is, what their nature is. And a good way to think about it is not that the planets are influencing us. I mean, even though that they are, because everything is energy, but we're influencing them, just as much as they're influencing us. And the ancients, actually, their practice of sky gazing and stargazing, and, astrology is, the practice of, and the study of the planets and their movements in the heavens, but there was also an astrological magical practice, which meant building a relationship to the planets and the gods that actually were, the planets are thought to be manifestations of these gods, and even their home. And so, through ritual and through observation and just developing a practice, a relationship of speaking to, these planets and talking to them and invoking these energies, because, these energies also exist inside of us, these archetypes. Archetypes meaning the prototypes that exists, within every person. They have found, like in the collective consciousness, that there are archetypes that everybody, can relate to and understand. And so Zeus, the king of the gods, or, Jupiter in his Roman, Zeus being his Greek name, his myth comes from, he was the eldest son of the Titan Cronus, who's now known as, also Saturn, and Rhea. And, and Cronus, out of fear of his children, so he had children with Rhea, but what he would do is he would eat them, because he didn't want his children one day to usurp his throne and become more powerful than him. He has this great fear. And so what he was doing is, he was eating all of his children. And Zeus was the youngest. And, and so his mom hid Zeus away and in a cave, and was raised, on the down low, like really quiet. And then one day, Zeus gave a drink, an elixir, a magical elixir, to Cronus in order for Cronus to regurgitate all of his children. And because of that, Zeus was like championed as this rebellious, character and the savior of bringing, back the life to, to his brothers and his sisters. And they drew lots in order to see who was going to get what, control and, inheritance or whatever. And so Zeus drew, the the inheritance of the sky. So he was known as the sky god. Hades got the underworld, and Neptune or Poseidon got the seas. So, Zeus is, there's so many myths about Zeus. I mean, so many myths of him. He's actually a shapeshifter god, meaning he can change what he looks like in his body, changing his borders, and how he looks, transfiguring himself. And he would do that a lot in order to seduce, women on Earth, and, he would change into animals and all sorts of interesting stuff. And so that's a big part of his mythology, and his personality, is one of expansion and liberation and rebellion, but also very lusty and kind of just like this, being able to transfigure himself and change and adapt and kind of go after what he wants, and and have luck in doing so. He kind of is known as the lucky planet, or the lucky archetype, in the Greek pantheon and in astrology. And, where we have Jupiter is where we, tend to have faith. It also is a type of of our father figure, or even slightly authoritarian type figure, but not in an oppressive, like constrictive type way, like Saturn can be, but more of this expansion, just like feeling like he's a gas giant, so it's like filled with optimism and lots of like hot air, So, it's a very philosophical and inspiring type planet. And, and also brings us, because of the connection with faith, our connection with divinity, because he is the sky god, so he connects us with, with the supremacy, with the ultimate yang, with the light factor, and in Chinese medicine, our ability to actually reach up towards the light has a lot to do with the liver. And I think we spoke about this in the last time, because we covered Sagittarius, which Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So in the body, this element, and the organ that takes us from a seed, from potential and from possibility, and we have to strive up and expand and be creative to reach the light, is the wood energy, and so with Jupiter now moving into the planet of Scorpio, this is where this whole opening of this expansion of consciousness and this growth, essentially, is happening, is in the realm of Scorpio. And Scorpio is a fixed water sign. So the water element in our life is, it's all about the fluidity. Water is very much about our emotions. It's, how we flow with life. It takes us places. It's what water does, and it rules over our emotional, our feelings, our intuition. So much of water, is all beneath the surface. When you look at the ocean, so much of the ocean is yet to be discovered. And, and when you look at the ocean, it's like, from on land, there's so much life and so much going on, that when you're under the water, you don't even know about what's going on above. It's a whole other world. And so it's a lot about what is under the surface. And if we think in our body, what is under the surface, or what is in the underworld, is everything below the belly button. Everything below the umbilicus is our reproductive organs, so it's our sexuality. It's the dredges, the ditches, and the drains in the body. It's our intestines, the shit. Our bladder is down there. Even our kidneys. All of these organs, and I'll get into a little bit more about what those are about in our lives, but all of these organs are under the domain of Scorpio. And so when Jupiter comes there, Jupiter is like there's not enough room down here. So, because it's expansion, right? So what can happen when Jupiter is in Scorpio is there's like this abundance and need and like lust for these things. For sex, for sexuality, for being able to merge with other people in an emotionally intimate way, to blend resources with other people, whether that's, with intimacy, on an emotional level, on a financial level, and a sexual level. And Scorpio is all about the shadow. It's about, what's hidden. It's in the dark. And so I feel like so much of like some of the symbols when I think about the Jupiter in Scorpio is smoke and mirrors. Smoke, is like this, it's like an illusion or a veil, that keeps us from really seeing purely what is, and this is what Jupiter is coming to, teach us. And, so Scorpio, yes, it's a water sign, but it's ruled by Mars, which is a fiery planet. So it has this element of fire water, like the boiling water that's like in full boil, of passion, and it's steaming. It's actually changing, it's transforming from one element. I mean, it's actually the same element, it's just going from a different form into another. And that is also a big part of what Scorpio does, is it's transformational. It changes your whole world. But in the process of changing worlds, there's so much fear that we can face. And there's so much happening beneath the surface, but on the outside, still everything, kind of like a snake. When a snake is shedding its skin, on the outside, the snake looks horrible, and it's vulnerable. It feels vulnerable, and its energy is like, and it's maybe even more self-protective because it is in this vulnerable state. But there's so much power and so much happening in that snake in order to grow and expand and create this brand new, beautiful, like smooth, slippery, slithery skin. So this is kind of how it can feel when you're in the underworld of this, changing worlds. It's like you're in this dark tunnel. And Scorpio a lot of times is looked at as the birth canal, like as a soul comes from, from above, or when we leave this body and our soul, goes to this next place, but also in our life when we're going from one way of being into another, when from, we're changing, we're growing. We're in this like birth canal where there's all this pressure and we're getting like, like in the birth canal, the uterus is contracting and, and as a baby, the baby's never experienced this before. It's like, what is this? It's, it's a lot of pain. It's not only pain for the mother, and that labor pain of like all of that it takes for imagine like doing, like all of these crunches or all of these, curls, anytime you flex your muscle, like, and imagine like how much flexing, like that's what Scorpio is. It's a flexing. It's a flexing of your wisdom and of your strength and of your focus, and it's like, so that's also why Scorpio rules the intestines, because it's the intestines that squeeze and like push all of the junk out, everything that you've consumed and that you said, I value this, so I'm going to eat it, right? And it's not just like, again, what we're eating, but what's on our plate in life. I want that, I value it, I desire, I bring it in, okay? And then what Scorpio does is it says, okay, well, we're going to move it down and we're going to change it and we're going to use it and we're going to transform it, and it takes a lot of, of this pressure and this constriction and tightening, flexing to happen. And so in essence, like, this is what is happening in all of us, is we're learning more about that, and we're growing in that process, and we're learning to actually be inspired by, and not even fearing even, the darkness, the shadow, meaning the shadow is anything that we don't want to see, kind of like, when the sun shines its light on us, like, we're being seen, but it's the shadow that, is where the sun isn't hitting, as our body casts that shadow. So anything that we don't want to own about who we are or what we desire is that we feel shameful about, or that we just don't want to own, is our shadow. And it's usually, everything that somehow, we grew up with society telling us it was bad, or we learned it from our parents, or we had an experience, in school or in society somewhere, or we read it or whatever, and we then felt, betrayed, or we weren't valued because of that, and then we shame it, and we hide it and we push it down, and in doing that, and in not bringing light and hiding it and like pushing it away in a dark corner, of course, only breeds toxicity, and so that's not healthy. And so what Jupiter in Scorpio is doing is saying, no, like, actually, I want to teach you about all of the wealth that is contained within those dark places, like all of the secrets, all of the desires that you have that you're pushing down, that you don't want to own, and a lot we can learn about Scorpio too is, the sign opposite Scorpio is Taurus. And just like the yin yang, the shadow being the yin, the light being the yang. So if our shadow is everything that we don't want to own, then we can bring in that Taurus, that says, I own, I have, and to balance out when we're in that dark place of our shadow and our turmoil, and realize how wealthy we are because we have these experiences, and do the transformation in order to not judge and shame ourselves, because ultimately that's what, is happening in the body. Is anytime we're judging or shaming something, it's because we're not translating the symbol of what it is, So if I have a deep, dark desire that, I want to have sex, in a certain kind of way with a certain kind of person, but I'm not honoring that, I'm shaming myself because of that. The wisdom is to really look at, well, what's the symbol behind why I have this, like, fetish? Like, let's say I have this fetish of, I want, somebody to, make love to me with, like, some striped, like, Alice in Wonderland socks while I'm, sucking on a lollipop or something, whatever, or maybe I want to get, beat, I want to get whipped, while, somebody's making love to me, or whatever it may be, And it's, what does that mean? It's not that, like, what does that mean? What are the symbols within, somebody wearing striped socks? Why does that turn you on? And so there's a wisdom and there's a learning and an expansion that when we're actually willing to look at it, then we can really feed our heart and not shame it and actually see it and be like, oh, like what I really want is I want to feel like, I want to get tapped into, a little bit of my my fantasy with sports or something, because they wear like the striped socks, or or what does it mean when I'm whipped? Like, that pain of, of being whipped hard. Like, what is that I really want? What does that mean? And this is personal to everybody. And this is why this time, is so wonderful to work with teachers that can do that work with you, whether, and sometimes we can do this by ourselves. Other times we need somebody. I mean, Scorpio is a sign of intimacy, intimacy with ourselves, like really knowing who we are, and sometimes we need somebody to, create a safe container and a space in order for us to explore, and tell us it's okay, when we're scared because we're in the dark, and somebody who's been there before too, like Jupiter too, because it's a rebellious, it's going against, maybe the traditional type, like everything that's taboo is also ruled by Scorpio. So that basically, like they say, anything that you don't talk about, like most people, and then there's some of us that just, just say what's on there, no filter, which is very Jupiter, but that you don't talk at, like, when you first meet somebody, like you don't ask them about their money, you don't ask them about their sex life, you don't ask them about their inheritances, if they've paid their taxes, if they study witchcraft, the things that are, the hidden things. It's the occult meaning hidden, so even magic, which is something that, and I'm going to get to this in another video. I've been thinking about how I want to share about, talking about magic and the use of it and what it really is. But, in a nutshell, magic is our ability to focus, and manifest things, which is a very Scorpio, to focus, bringing our will, and focus it, and channel it, are things that are really highly favorable right now. So going back to the shadow is, and then again, once you see it, it's like once you shine the light on, it's like we're not scared of it anymore, because we're really seeing it for what it is. It's not a shadow anymore. It's not like this scariest, like, hidden thing, this monster of, how we judged ourselves for, whatever, and then we're free. Like, that's how we liberate ourselves. But it takes a lot. It's that quality of being able, when, Scorpio is, it's getting into winter time, it's starting to become winter, it's part of the, if we look at it, at least in the northern hemisphere. But I feel like, that it really does kind of make sense, when the olden days, like before electricity and, and technology and all these things, like in the winter time, it was a time of it was scarier for people because, things weren't growing. It was colder. We need heat in order to survive. It's just a biological fact. So when it gets cold, it's naturally, it's like there's this sense of fear, because it's like, am I going to make it through the winter into the spring? Are we going to have enough food to make it? So it takes a lot of will, in order to not only, focus our energies in, and bring our heat in, and tap into that pilot light that never goes out in here. But it also, like, in the dark, when your family's hungry and you need to eat, and it's like, you got to go out into that darkness and face, and you had to go and, like, hunt for your food, and be that warrior and say, I'm scared, it's in the dark, but I'm hungry. And if I don't do this, I'm going to die. That's the essence of Scorpio, is saying, it's the warrior. It's, I am going to, one foot in front of the other, forge on in the dark. And on the other side of this, I'm going to eat, which is Taurus, right? I'm going to be fed. I'm going to say, I value that, I want that, and I'm going to get it. So, so in the body, this has a lot to do. In Chinese medicine, we call this our kidney energy. The kidney energy, in Chinese medicine, isn't just the kidneys that, filters through our water and creates, the right balance of electrolytes, so that we've got, the right pH going on in our blood, and then it filters that and it brings it into the bladder, and then, everything that's, not needed is eliminated. So the bladder in Chinese medicine is like the bank of the body. It's our ability to hold and contain our desires, and so, if there's anything going on, with urination, with even bladder, prolapsing, or you feel like you're peeing all the time, or your urine is off, like, that's everything from, burning urine, cloudy urine, peeing too much, peeing too little, peeing at nighttime, like when you're supposed to be sleeping, like waking up to pee, wetting the bed, even sneezing and peeing, and they say, like, after you have a baby, like, that's normal, and it's common. It's not normal. It's not healthy. So all of these things are indicator that there is not enough integrity with the bladder to actually hold and contain our desires. There's like this spillage, this leaking out, or vice versa. We can have too much, where we're like holding all of our our desires, and we're like anxious, and like, and we're blaming and judging ourselves, and like shaming ourselves for every little desire and, thing that we have. And that too, of course, it creates an imbalance too. So it just depends on what you're doing. And, and it takes a physician in order to look at that and see, okay, well, what really is it? But that is something that is under the realm of Scorpio, and it's under the realm to be healed now, to some process for us to grow and expand our awareness of our desires. And our, because it's the bank account, it also has to do with how we spend our money, how we, spend our sexuality. As sexuality is an energy, it's an energetic, it's life force. So if we are having a lot of sex, or maybe like having sex and we're not really wanting to, which can happen, or for men that like are having lots of sex and they're not really receiving, and making a heart connection, but they're still like, ejaculating too much, like that is like an expenditure of their life force, which is draining. So that's also something that is ruled by Scorpio, is, premature ejaculation, being able to orgasm, not being able to orgasm, having satisfying, intense, strong orgasms, like all of these things, working with tantric energy and learning how to circulate your kundalini energy and have better and more satisfying orgasms, and orgasms that aren't just in your genitals, orgasms that go through your whole body, or in different parts of the body. These are all within the realm of what Scorpio, really shines, how Scorpio shines in the world, and our for investigation, are up for exploration and growth right now this next year as Jupiter is here. So the reproductive system, also, the vagina, the womb, the ovaries is also under the realm of Scorpio. So anything to do with your menstrual cycle, especially your blood. Blood is very much a Scorpio type, as it's a fluid again. It belongs to the water element. Especially anything like fibroids, cysts, things, because it's a fixed water sign. So meaning it's stagnant. It's water that's not moving. Scar tissue. Anytime we've had any sort of sexual scarring, whether it's an emotional experience, a sexually, traumatic experience where we were scarred emotionally, whether we were raped, we were defiled, shamed somehow, all of these things create energetic wounds in our sacred sex. They also create wounds, can in the physicality. Either way, it can manifest, in the body, and it will manifest as these sorts of things. Even like feeling like the energy of a sexual predator, like somebody stalking you or somebody trying to hound you for sex, all of these things, which is very much like it's a big topic right now. And this is why this is Jupiter in Scorpio. But this is how it manifests in the body. And it can lead to all sorts of things from, PCOS to polycystic ovarian, syndrome to infertility to, incredibly traumatic pains, lots of bleeding, no bleeding, irregular menstrual cycles. All of these are within, is fair game for coming to the light and being healed right now, and, so anytime that we're wounded, what happens is it's like a wound, we bleed, right? And so once we bleed, we form a scar. And that's a scar tissue of our, of our border, of our boundary, meaning somebody crossed a sacred place within me that either I didn't give them permission to do, or I did, and they still, hurt me, wounded me, or whatever, this victim consciousness. Jupiter is going into the sacral chakra, and is coming in and saying, we're about to move this victim energy out and upgrade up, So back to the scar tissue. Scar tissues, it's blood, and blood is liquid consciousness. It's blood is pumped from the heart, and our heart is where we are. If we got a heartbeat, that's saying it's a commitment to being present. Every time our heart beats, we're saying, I'm here. I'm alive, right? I'm here. So every heartbeat is, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm here, So that's why children who have really, really fast heartbeats, that's why they're more impatient, because their heartbeats are so fast. They technically have more experience, in for example, in 30 seconds, their heart has beat twice as many times as an adult. So it's like they've actually had more periods of now than we have. Okay? So that's what the heartbeat is its presence. So the blood is actually the liquidness. It's the container of that presence throughout the whole body. Okay? So when you have a scar, what's happening is it's a memory of that presence of being wounded, and it's held in there. And it's saying, I remember being hurt. I remember being wounded. I remember the pain. And as long as that scar tissue is there, there's always memory of pain. And pain creates more pain. And so that's why we really avoid it, resolving this scar tissue type stuff, because in order to resolve it, what has to happen is we have to get out of that frozen state, because the memory is frozen in time, saying, because we weren't really able to fully heal in that moment. So what happens is the body and the heart says, I'm going to freeze this. I'm going to hold it in time so that when you're ready, you can process through it, and that's going to open up. And so this is Also, part of this realm of Scorpio is the heart protector. The all of the veins in the body, the things that protect and bring awareness and bring nourishment to the heart, and protect the heart. When that gets frozen and locked and stuck, we have to move through it again, and kind of, and breath can be so helpful. So any sort of transformational breath work, or just working on breathing, doing visualizations, will help to actually open up that trauma again. And because when we breathe, what we're doing is we're actually having more presence, because the heart is expanding with breath. And so we're able to be in our heart and be like that's why when you're giving birth, breathing is so helpful, because it's you're creating more awareness and more openness and more self-control, and saying, I can be present in this pain. I can be present in this pain. I can open to the pain. I don't have to fear the pain. So this is a process of moving through some of these traumatic experiences, is through this type of work. And in doing that, what it does is it moves the blood. And it says it takes that memory of that pain, of that betrayal, of that woundedness, and it starts to circulate it out and share it with the rest of the world, with the kingdom of our body, which is our life, and the people in our life, and saying, all right, wow. So that everybody can start to realize this person is changed now, because they no longer hold that memory of pain, and they're not stuck in time. This is why this can happen with relationships, when we're betrayed in relationships. Like, if somebody cheats on us, and then we hold that memory of being betrayed, and then it's hard for us to move on into a new relationship, because when we move into a new relationship, the heart has to open again, and, and bloom again. But sometimes in that process, in that blooming, that old blood has to come out, as it starts to move, and it's like, I'm hurt, all I feel is pain. And then we're not able to really be fully present as we're coming to another in relationship, because we're feeling all this pain, and we're really confused, maybe sometimes. We're not sure. We could be angry too, like, as we're holding on to the, the anger from the past relationship or experience. But here we are with a totally brand new person, and we're feeling angry, we're feeling scared, and we're feeling like victimized or betrayed or suspicious. And it's because it has nothing to do, really, and this is for another talk, or if you want to do private work with me, but it's because you're working through an old wound that's coming up. So that can happen too, just so you know. So this is all the realm of Scorpio, Scorpio is so in touch with these places, knows so well, so intimately, how to wound, how to be wounded, how to heal, how to hex. That's the expression, like you can't really heal until you know how to hex, meaning you know how to protect yourself, how you know how to possibly inflict pain on somebody else for protection. You can't really heal. And that's the yin-yang, right? That's the shadow. You can't really be a light worker if you're not looking at your shadow. You can't be a healer. You can't be, a lover even. You can't be in your brightest, most illumined state if you're still not owning the part of you that is essentially the black, rich, fertile soil of which to grow towards the light. Like, we want to get to the light, and we're this plant, like traveling. How are we going to get there to the light? You know what I mean? And in order to do that, you need roots. You need to be grounded in the earth. You need to be able to be in touch with that soil, that blackness, that, the yin, in order to reach up towards the light. I feel that's really good. There's a lot. It's big territory, and we've got a whole year to explore it. And I wanted to talk about some dates that are really key, because Scorpio is a water sign, and so with Jupiter being in Scorpio, it's also going to hook up, meaning it's going to make an alignment, an alliance with another planet in Pisces, which is Neptune, which is another water sign. It's a trine aspect, so it's a very graceful, flowing, supportive energy to move the emotional energy, the water energy in our charts, in our lives. And Pisces is about unity. It's the last sign of the zodiac. It's definitely about healing. It's about, it also, relates to the sacral chakra, and it's ruled by Jupiter. So there's a real cool synergy that's going to happen, and it's already starting to happen right now with wherever you've got Scorpio and wherever you've got Pisces, and also to Cancer. So any of these water signs, and if you've got these, or planets in these water signs, it's a big year for you. It's like, imagine getting fresh water, like you've been swimming in this fish tank, and you're cleaning out the whole water and you're getting brand new water. You've grown, like fish or amphibians and turtles and reptiles, when you put them in a fish tank, if you make the fish tank bigger, they grow. They grow to fill the tank. So it's the same concept with this. When you grow, you have to grow, and then you will be gifted with the bigger arena, And so this is a big washing, and there's special herbal formulas specifically for this, for really clearing out the liver energy, all of the, the filtration systems in the body. All of, like, the filter is the, yes, it's the liver, but it's also the kidneys. So really cleaning all the gunk out of there so that you can have this fresh wellspring of new memories and new beautiful life and new potentials coming in, and wealth and fluidity and connection, because water connects us. It's as opposed to fire, that when you have a fire, it separates things. It's dry. It, like, it breaks stuff apart and purifies it. Water, it flows, and it, when you put water in a cake batter, or in flour, it gets everything moist and brings everything together. It's the feelings, and so that's what liquid and the water element does, is it brings people together. It brings families together. It brings generations together. It brings continents, together. It brings disconnected parts of ourselves, parts of our soul that's been lost, parts of our memory that's been lost. It brings it back together by washing everything and cleansing and cooling down the system. So, first, October 26th, which is coming up here, is when, or is it the 24th? I want to say, let me just do a double check here, that it's the 26th, when the sun actually is conjoined. Yeah, it's actually no, it is the 26th. Yeah, so October 26th or October 26th, sorry, is when the sun will conjoin with Jupiter. And so, the sun is like the biggest light. It's the biggest luminary in our solar system. And so it really will shine a huge spotlight on Jupiter in Scorpio, and showing us, like, what this passage really is about. So if you can take extra time that day to, go inward, to, journal or pay attention, go out in nature, maybe spend time in the water, take a bath, have sex, like any of those, do some investigating, just really pay attention. That whole day is going to be like a snapshot of, like, what the next year with Jupiter and Scorpio is going to be about. So that's the 26th. And then November 30th, to December 5th is really when Jupiter is going to be exactly trining Neptune in Pisces. So that's really going to be emphasizing that huge, sweeping, water cleansing energy that's going to happen. And I highly encourage you, if you want some insights into this on your chart, or you want to do a session with me to really take advantage of this energy and do some deep healing, whether it's, all of these things that we spoke about, that would be a really awesome time. And we can look at, these where these signs are in your chart, because every sign, the natal chart is like a pie, and we've got these 12 different signs are also 12 different areas of life, so where Scorpio is in your chart may be different from where Scorpio is in your lover's chart. So if Scorpio's in the area of your life that has to do with your home, and your family heritage, then this is going to be about really shifting and growing and cleaning out the gunk, and transforming, how empowered you are and how safe you are, and, being able to heal your home life, and your connection to your family, versus if it's in your sixth house of work and of health and of service, then you're really going to be like transforming your lifestyle and like what you're doing like day to day, like through every hour of the day, and what you do every day for work in order to like make money and to devote your service to. So that's what I mean by looking at your chart, is knowing where these areas are going to be highlighted. So again, from November 30th to December 5th, that's when Jupiter in Scorpio is going to be trining Neptune in Pisces. And because, Cancer is like that third water sign, it's like the open part, really bringing, attention that's to Cancer, where Cancer is in your chart would be really important too. And even working on Cancer being the area of the home and your family is or if you know Cancer people, it would be really nice to link up with them, because they will, if you don't have Cancer energies already operating strongly in your chart, by being around Cancer or bringing in that Cancer energy, you're gonna fill in that triangle, and triangle is that sacred geometric shape, that's that pointed focus, right? That is and it's that number 3 which creates magic. It's the Trinity. We'll talk about that in another session, perhaps. We'll make some notes on all these other things, to talk about. But yeah, so remember that with Cancer. And December 25th, Jupiter will actually square the nodes at 15 degrees. So the nodes are right now in the Leo and Aquarius axis, which is where the nodes of the moon, you can be seen as portals through which our souls are moving towards. Like our greatest solar evolution happens where the nodes are. So when something squares the nodes, it's kind of like this extra type of resource that we can tap into in order to move us towards our destiny, and squaring, is a challenging aspect. It requires us to forge and take action and change, it's a catalyst type energy. So just know from December 25th, that day, it's Christmas, that's very interesting, will be like a destiny portal. January 6th will be when Mars actually hooks up with Jupiter at 17 degrees of Scorpio. So Mars is the action planet. It's going to bring a lot of heat, and drive and energy to really, so if you're going, that might be a day where, or a time period, January 6th, where you feel a lot more drive, or maybe more frustration, or more irritability, or maybe even because Mars is, it's that symbol of a sword, or of an arrow. So it could, it'll be like more sex drive, or maybe more passion or more compatibility. You know, it could also bring, it's just more drive, more energy. You know, it's like the will center really gets thrust forward. Um, I mean, would be an incredible day for sex. Like, if you want to use it for that, for training, if you want to launch some sort of entrepreneurial type thing, you know, if you want to, that would be a great, great day to choose. Or, you know, a competitive event, you know, or even some type of cleanse, you know, where you really need the extra will and the drive. Use that day. You might want to also burn off the extra heat and energy, or spend a lot more time in water. February 4th is Venus will be in Aquarius squaring Jupiter. And so this is actually the halfway point of Venus, our love goddess, the halfway point of her journey, of her cycle, you know. She has an 18-month cycle. And, you know, March 4th of this year was where she began a new journey in Aries. She conjoined the sun. And so at this time next year, February 4th of next year is when she will be on the other side of the sun, conjoin the sun. And shortly after that, she's going to square Jupiter. So there's going to be an aspect of the heart, you know, where the heart is, you know, our heart is going to have a chance to really connect with Source, connect with, they call it being in the throne room of the king. You know, Venus is going to have a talk with the, you know, our divinity, with Source, and really being shown a spotlight on what does the heart need, you know? How can the heart be purified? Our love nature, our relationships, our connection to our home. And just after she does that, you know, she's at that halfway point in her cycle, in her journey, she's going to square Jupiter. And so there's going to be a conversation of some sort of challenge that's, you know, Jupiter is going to, you know, be like, from this viewpoint in Scorpio, saying, well, these are my needs, you know, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to resource, when it comes to emotional, you know, my emotional nature, my shadow, you know, my secrets, my hiddenness, my, you know, and Venus is going to be in Aquarius, you know, saying, all right, well, this is, I just got, like, the king just, you know, showed me what's up, you know, and so they're going to have a conversation, you know, where the heart is going to align with our sexuality, with our, you know, also with our will center, you know, and we're going to have to make a choice and forge, you know, and put those two together and create a new forging ahead, a new path. So that's real important. February 4th, just before Valentine's Day. And yeah, so those are all really key dates to keep in mind. Again, if you have any questions about those, I do consultations, I do soul juice sessions. Just please feel free to comment, ask questions. I would love to know what you thought about this. Maybe what I'll do part 2 is maybe some sort of like tools and herbs and things like that to support Jupiter and Scorpio, since we didn't go into that right now today, but we've already been going on now for an hour. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. I'm already learning so much as somebody who is, I got a stellium in Scorpio myself, including my South Node, meaning much of my soul's memory is Scorpio territory. So I come from the land of Scorpio, you know. I've been there. I've done it. I've done it this lifetime. I'm doing it this lifetime. I've done it in past lifetimes. And Scorpio energy is, it's really beautiful. It's not easy, that's for sure, you know, but getting gold, you know, if it was easy, everybody would have it. And wealth and gold they're very interesting things. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got turned on a little bit. I hope you get turned on more. And yeah, mwah. Bye.